Welcome back to the Seriously Don't Do That podcast. I'm your host, Dan Griffith, president of Grow with Dan. And tonight's episode is going to focus specifically on founders. Now, that doesn't mean if you're not a founder, you can't listen in, or that if you want to be a founder, that you have to listen in. But it is specifically focused on founders. And tonight's DDT is don't let your ego get in the way of your company's growth. The other subtitle is Know Your Role. Now, those of you that have watched previous podcasts know that I do enjoy wrestling. And if you know anything about wrestling, there's a bald guy in wrestling that says, know your role, and the next is shut your mouth. So, founders, know your role and shut your mouth. I will never say that to any of my clients. I just wanted to say that on a podcast, David. Good evening.
Good evening. Now, I can see this one being a little controversial. Isn't having a founder-sized ego one of the keys to growth?
Yeah, I think it may even get more controversial. I first told them to know their role and shut their mouth in my best rock impression, which I think is not even close, except for maybe the bald, shiny head. But it to a point, you need to have confidence to start a company. But I think what I've seen over the years that I've worked is that at some point you need to put smart people around you that know what they're doing and are good at what they do, and then get out of the way and let them do that. And you got to get to a certain point to do that. It involves a lot of self-awareness and knowing, your blind spots and be willing to fill them. And then, like I said, getting out of the way and letting people that do it well. In some instance, even as a founder, it means you have to hire a CEO if that's not your personality. I've seen that work very well. Matter of fact, in one of the companies I worked in, the founder, very smart guy, very good product guy, put together a tremendous product, but he realized that he wasn't the personality type to go out and get funding and to be kind of that inspirational lead of the company that a CEO oftentimes needs to be. And he was smart enough to step aside, and that company grew to $150 million very quickly. I also think of the opposite, where I've worked with a company that was small and quite honestly remained small because the founder wanted to meddle in everything. And, that's when it's your baby, it's difficult not to do that. But when you do that, you frustrate people. People leave the organization, and you end up just getting a bad result.
So the moral of this story is be hands off. Got it.
Well, yes and no. Like I said in the answer to the previous question, if you hire the right people and you give them the ability to make decisions, then you can be hands off. But you've got to be careful that you empower people, because if you don't empower them, then you're essentially, being hands off, but they don't have the power to make any decisions, and it ends up being anarchy, unfortunately.
So it sounds like you're saying that the key is hiring the right people, empowering them to do their jobs, and then managing the results?
Absolutely, David. You have got it. I think that you're ready to come sit in this chair, so maybe I'll record the next podcast. But you're exactly right. Hire the right people, empower them to make their decisions, and then manage the results. And I think maybe a fourth thing that I would add in there is, be able to iterate quickly. If something's not working, change it and move on. Well, that is all for now. Thank you for joining us. Be well and grow. Next week, we're going to talk about partners, but it's going to be a little different than what you expected. We're going to tell you, don't rely on partners to do the hard work in your business.